something happens.
True.
Well, it sounds like we're all super positive tonight.
I was like, I can't believe I'm walking up to the door popped open. Oh, let's see, what did
I
I
didn't
do?
even think to go through that door.
Oh, this one that you just let me in?
Uh-huh.
Well, I called Karen, I was like, hey,
Yes,
can you
you-
let me in the back?
I wish I'd done that,
I
door
would-
was open.
I know, yeah. I always feel like I'm walking the plank when people are already seated and I'm running in here at the last minute.
Well, that's usually the case.
It is, I know. Listen,
We're silently
McMurtry
judging.
was a fan of that too.
I'm
Oh,
so
yeah,
glad
no.
that y'all are
What's
judgers.
We're
No, no,
silently
no.
judging.
Oh, she
It's in my will to make sure that I'm late to my own funeral.
Hey, I'm retired, I can get here whenever I want. You're employed. And a parent.
I need to clone myself
Yeah.
the next few
You let
months.
me know how that works for you.
If you cleanse yourself, you have to go all the way back to the beginning and recreate the same environment that you've been in
Well,
for all these years.
just lately I feel like I need two of me.
I don't like
What's
these
today, the
stupid
23rd?
things.
Yeah.
Tracy, have
Okay.
you practiced how quickly you can go through this?
Okay,
Like an auctioneer.
Actually, that's what I'll do. I really will just skip to there's a couple of number changes. And I really will just,
Does it?
See if you can get through it before Elliot gets here.
Next slide, next slide, next slide. You can read that later.
Is Karen not coming?
Karen is not here, she's out of town.
I will not be at the June meeting. Just, I'll remind you closer. That's
Oh,
the
it's
only
6:30.
conflict
Oh,
I
perfect.
know that I
There you go.
have.
the fiscal year 2027 budget public hearing of the Middlesex County School Board will now come to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Seiss will now proceed with the budget presentation.
All right, and since I do not see any additional people in the audience, besides Mr. Tuning, I will sit here and go through these slides with you. Most all of them you have seen. There's some adjustments to some numbers as I go through. All right, so first one is, of course, our strategic plan, reminding you that everything we do is based on our mission and vision of engaging, inspiring, and empowering our students. I've noticed our 4 priorities or strategic objectives, which you hear about often in our board meetings, especially when we're highlighting our navigators, but it also is a driving force behind everything we do, including our budget. The next slide just reminds you that we have 4 buckets of funding that comes to us. There's the state funding. We base that's based on our enrollment. I've shared before that we base this year's budget on 1170. That's K through 12, not pre-K. We currently have 1,130 students that count in our ADM, and so we will base next year's budget on 1,130 students. Another reminder is that our LCI is down. That comes down from a 0.6389 to a 0.6207, and that will be in effect for the next 2 fiscal years. It's still high, however, it does help us going forward in this budget because it does increase the amount of state funds that we will receive. Federal funding, that is made up of IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Act, and then title funding. We have title funding 1 through 5 that we receive, and then our vocational funding, or what we refer to as Perkins funding. That all makes up federal. And then we have an other bucket. We get tuition from non-resident students, rebates, refunds, donations, grants, and this is where our E-rate, which is additional funding that comes in. And then, of course, the local operation funding, and that is what we receive or is allocated to us through the Board of Supervisors. So as we work on the budget, the things that will really impact on the expenditure side of things, actually, no, I said the wrong thing. That's not the one we're on. revenue assumptions. Okay, so here's the numbers that we've got for state and federal and other funding. And so state funding is up for this year. I'd shared that our LCI has decreased, and then there is some additional funding that was allocated in this budget. Federal funding, slightly down. The other funding, this is a change from what has been presented to you in earlier meetings, because we are receiving all of the E-rate funding that supports our technology, and we've added that into the other category. So that is an increased number over what you've seen previously in this year's presentations. And now for the considerations, or what our expenditures are impacted by. Positions is one area where we would typically see an increase. We have no new positions for this year. In fact, we have eliminated 2 positions. Health insurance, we have received that rate, and it definitely was an increase. It actually came out to about $39,000 higher than what we had projected in our earlier meetings, and so that number is now included in our overall budget numbers also. The other category for instruction, inflation, and operations, we've increased line items for substitutes, professional development, tuition reimbursement. Those were areas that we knew we needed to see an increase for FY27, or increase our line items there. We have natural increases for inflation, utilities, purchase services, subscriptions, and then we have some one-time purchases in the area of operations, carpeting in some places, tiles in other places. And then compensation is always a consideration for an increase to the budget, and I can cover that in the next 2 slides. All right, this one, recognizing it's difficult to see, it does show you the 10 counties in our region, which are similar size and are in Region 3. It is the next slide that shows you how we compare when we start at step 0 and then go all the way to step 30, which is what our scale contains. You see we start off at the bottom, the very bottom, number 10, we come to 9. We move up to 6 a little bit, and then we start to move back down. And so we never actually get to 5th place or anything higher than that. I've shared with you, and this is not new to you, that we lose probably about 20% of our instructional staff each year. We do have 1 or 2 that retire each year, but then we're seeing them resign, not just to go to other divisions, but to go into the private sector. Teachers are the one category of employees that we struggle to employ, both to recruit and to retain. There's lots of requirements to be a teacher in Virginia. Virginia actually has some of the highest standards for endorsement and licensure. Not new to you, the amount of money that teachers put into their own classrooms. Some work additional jobs, either on nights and weekends and summers. And so, as I shared, we're not just competing with other divisions, we're also competing with the private sector. And so this budget does include a teacher compensation increase of a step plus 4%, and then for all other staff, a step plus 3%. Within that, we did have to make some slight adjustments to the specialist 1 and 2 scales and the admin 1 scales. And so this just is an overview of how our expenditures lay out in those categories. The bulk of our expenses are salary and benefits, about 74%, and then we have the other categories. And then for our capital improvement projects, we do have some adjustments to this slide also, and this is based on both the work session we had with the Board of Supervisors and continued conversations I've had with the county administrator. So it does include the replacement bus cycle for 2 diesel buses for FY27. It includes the replacement of the rooftop units at Middlesex High School. Per the request of the county, we did move weapons detection out of operations and into the CIP. you'll see that we have removed the track repair and pole vault for FY '27. That will be carried into a future fiscal year, but we've added in the addition of the technology infrastructure. I referenced that when I was talking about the E-rate coming in. When I spoke with Mr. Walker, this is an item that we can put into the CIP category, and that's what the county is doing, and so we are mirroring what the county is doing there, and so that's a new item that comes into the CIP but replaces what we had for track and pole vault. This being one of the larger CIP totals that we've had in recent years. And so now revenue summary, some of these numbers have also been adjusted since the last time we were together. And so state funds have increased. That is due to our LCI coming down and then some program adjustments. I should have said early on that these numbers are based on the former governor's proposed budget in December of 2025. Federal funds are down slightly, and then the other category, it looks like a huge jump, but that's because we added in the entire amount that we'll receive for E-rate. We typically can do that and phase that a little bit over the years. Added in through about it's a 4 or 5 year period, but we're also doing the purchases at the same time. This puts all of it in, and it falls into that other category at one time, and we will do the technology infrastructure, all of those upgrades at one time. So it kind of balances right there. And so now when you look at the operation request, you will see, and that's the orange categories in the lower box, you will see that the request from the county is now down $77,905 from what we received from them last year, about a 0.6% decrease. Debt service is very small, so when you look over at the total local funds ask, the total, and this includes operation and debt service, is a little over 14 million, or down 0.06% would be the ask from our locality. And so these are not final numbers. Again, they're based on the budget that was proposed in December. It is based on an enrollment of 1,130 K through 12 students. It includes compensation increase of a step plus 4% for teachers and a step plus 3% for all other staff. It has eliminated already 2 positions that we currently have in our budget. All of the health insurance increase has been absorbed into this budget so that it is not passed on to the employees. And then, of course, it has naturally occurring increases, I shared, inflation, and a couple of one-time operation purchases. Yesterday was Budget Sunday. The House and Senate have their own proposals. We have received those reports. Karen has been pouring through them. It's a little difficult to know exactly what those numbers look like and what increases or decreases would be on the House and Senate side, because VDOE no longer gives us a calculation tool for both of them. They used to, and we would know kind of the dollar amount. We could adjust the ADM, and so we're looking more at larger overviews of what proposals are, and so they will, decisions will be made there. We can still continue to be hopeful that when March 14th comes, that there is a budget that can be signed off on. But prior to that, I will be back at the March 9th meeting to bring a finalized budget that Karen and I have done the final preparations on for the school board to vote on. And then that is what will be submitted to the Board of Supervisors by April 1, which is our required time that we have to submit to our local funding body. And so with that, if you have any clarifying questions for me before you open the floor to anyone else, then I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Any questions from the board? And I think we have no questions from the public. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, Larry.